Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. I'm delighted you have found me and are spending a few moments with me. Today is July 24th. The Robert Mueller testimony has wrapped up just within the last hour, I would say. And so I wanted to do a bit of a quick reading to see how that's going to be received. What is going to happen as a result of today's testimony? Is Nancy Pelosi going to push harder? Are the members going to start changing their minds about, maybe not moving forward on impeachment? They're going to get behind that more. What's Donald Trump's reaction? What's his sort of legal strategy? And maybe even we can zero in a little bit on Mitch McConnell and the Republican Party. So a couple quick more shuffles, and then I'm just going to focus in. And my question is going to be very simple. It's sort of like, what is the reaction to today's testimony, generally speaking, over a broad spectrum of people and situations? So let's see what we can find out. All right, here we go. Okay, so reaction to testimony, reaction to testimony, reaction to testimony. Okay. So, despite the fact that it was a long time coming and it very much felt like a burden, it was like an effort to get Mueller where Mueller needed to be. Overall, his testimony is going to bear fruit, okay? There's going to be results, tangible results that come as a result of this. I caution you to not expect those results to surface tomorrow morning or next Tuesday. It's going to take a little bit more time to get all the pieces in order, but today was a significant step forward in having things move ahead in such a way so that there's a bit more balance and some enlightenment on what actually the situation is and what needs to be done going forward to address it. The Republicans are going to do their level best, and they're going to pull out whatever resources they have. And they're going to continue to sort of spin the narrative. And additionally, sadly, there is going to be even some celebrating on the Republicans' part, because they're going to be able to speak to the Mueller performance, because of course Donald Trump views everything as a TV show. So he's going to view today's TV show as, possibly a little damaging for him, but mostly he's going to review the performance. So his criticism is not going to be necessarily what Mueller said, but the way Mueller presented it, and maybe Mueller appeared a little confused, or he was a little halting in his answers. Expect Trump to sort of attack that, because visually it was not some dramatic crescendo of a movie ending. It was a very systematic explanation of what he could explain. He did stay in the four corners of the report. I said that he would. I said there would be no rockets flying in the air. He came and he did what he was sort of obligated or expected to do. as I said yesterday, he is really, it's time for him to take a little bit of a rest, to get away from the stress and the arguing and the bickering. You know, I was watching him today, and this morning in particular, when he was being questioned by the Republicans, there was a real sense of sadness from him, as if he was saddened by how little effort was being made by any of the Republicans to actually move off, you know, Peter Strzok, the Steele dossier, the origins of the investigation. They weren't going to move off of that because that was all they had. And, you know, he's looking at them thinking, you know what, there's a bunch of really good questions you could be asking me. You could be getting information, but no, they just wanted to stick to that ridiculous party line. And I think for him, it was a little bit sad, and he's going to move into retirement, I believe, quietly and peacefully. I do not expect that we are going to see a reappearance by Bob Mueller for a bit of time. I think career-wise, this was it. This was the crescendo, the last act. And I think he's going to become a very, very private citizen. He definitely requires some recovery. This was hard on him. It took its toll. And he really does need some R&R. You know, he just needs to wind down and regroup for this. Sometimes, you know, as we go through life and we have great expectations on people, sometimes we sort of gloss over or forget to take into consideration sort of some realities. And one of the realities with Bob Mueller is he is days away from turning 75. And that he has definitely proved does not make him unproductive or inefficient. He's was an amazing representation of the finest that law enforcement has. But that doesn't mean that it didn't take its toll. And I'm even not really applying this to age, because I happen to think that if you took randomly 6 people who was part of that investigation and, talk to them, you would find that all of them are mentally fatigued, exhausted, and really would like to just go somewhere nice and peaceful and just indulge in some R&R. And probably go for many, many days on end without hearing the words Trump. I know certainly that would be a lot of people's wishes. So, we're going to put these cards back and we're going to do a quick shuffle because I'm curious to know Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, what is their response to this? Pelosi Democratic response, Pelosi Democratic response, Pelosi Democratic response. Okay. While they are mindful of the fact that this was sort of a made-for-TV moment and that perhaps the performance was a little flat, they recognize and understand that going forward, some color is going to get added, and so there's going to be kind of a fuller story. And this is the thing that people like you and me who follow this very, very closely become really sort of agitated by, because it's like, let's move this ahead. How many more facts do you need? What is it going to take? Well, part of the answer of what it's going to take is people who have been very, very busy living their lives, being focused on what's going on in their world, have just not been paying enough attention. So what needs to happen is that as summer turns to fall, you know, and people start getting their head back in the games, because fall is sort of the time where typically everybody, you know, kind of kicks back into that routine, and, you know, they move out of vacation mode and into focus and routine. That is when, you know, you're going to see people who have maybe not been paying enough attention over the next few weeks go, wait a minute, this is important and I need to pay attention, or boy, this is getting a lot of headlines. I need to, you know, do a deeper delve on this. So part of what they needed to accomplish today was to get the word out, understanding that most people do not know what the contents of the Mueller report are. So that goal was accomplished. That process was started, and they can continue to move forward. The Democrats are still very much functioning as a united force. There are people who want to proceed immediately with impeachment proceedings. There are people who are not so anxious to do that, and there are some who are like, yeah, not even close to there yet. Again, as I said, Nancy Pelosi juggles members who are in blue states, who are in purple states, and even in red states. So you have to find the balance and do what's going to work for the broadest number of people, because you want the broadest possible response. Okay, so there's going to be some hard decisions that need to get made by the Democratic Party. And they're very, very mindful as they're moving forward, and they are. This August break is not going to be one of inactivity. A lot of these people are going to be, you know, returning home, and they're going to be holding town halls, and they're going to be getting feedback from their constituents, and they're going to be getting a broad range of feedback, right? Some people who have all the facts, some people have virtually none of the facts. They're going to be taking that feedback, and that, of course, is going to be informing the decisions and the choices they're making going forward into the fall time. You're going to see a bit of a retreat, and I don't think that this retreat has anything to do with the Democrats. It looks to me as if there's going to be a little bit of weakening of the support behind Donald Trump. So you've got him here in a very reflective, still recovery mode. You've got this situation of, you know, that which is gone, that which has been destroyed and cannot really be reclaimed or corrected. You can't turn it around and make a spilled cup an upright cup. So there's some things, as they say, are baked in, or simply the damage has been done. And it appears as if some of his big money, some of his more out front supporters may very well start pulling back a little bit, because as long as Trump was screaming no collusion, you know, no obstruction, people could sort of stand behind that, because they were like, well, you know, like 95% of people haven't read the report. Well, except now a whole bunch more people have been exposed more clearly to some of the contents of that Mueller's report. And so they can't keep saying, you know, well, he's innocent, because he's not. He's done some really, really, he's done some stuff that's just not cool. Sorry about that. So they're not going to be able to stand kind of behind the fantasy. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some more people pulling away from him. And him almost not going quiet, because Trump doesn't do that. He like doubles down. But it's like as if he doesn't have, you know, it's like as if he doesn't have any new material. So what you're going to get from him is the same old over and over and over repetitiveness. And people, frankly, are getting tired of hearing that. And you see that by people literally, leaving his rallies, and people needing to be, kind of coerced into going to these things, or even paid to go to them, because he is now literally in a bit of an uphill battle. And I don't see where he's going to be coming out of it in a way that's sort of helpful to him. I mean, he's got some real heavy swords to carry, and he's got some heavy ones to push into place. So you're talking about communications, you're talking about law and order, you're talking about, passion and fiery exchanges, and none of that, honestly, bodes well for Trump, because he doesn't have the truth on his side, and he's bordering very close to ranting, as opposed to be enthusiastic. So, I don't know. I think that in the first days there could be a lot of talk about how, it wasn't so bad, and it's fine. But I think as time evolves, you're actually going to see it sort of settling in. And people who were kind of dancing in the streets today because they think it was so great for Trump aren't going to be dancing in the streets for too many more days. As the public starts to process this information and they're able to see, Trump kept saying that, but in fact, this is what is reported. People said they weren't XYZ, but in fact, yep, here it is, XYZ. So as people start to put this together, you're going to get sort of an enthusiasm, a bit of a surge, people coming together and kind of once again getting active and motivated to sort of refocus in on this, because there's lots of people out there who aren't, and that's okay, because you know what, people have lives, and lives are important, and people get busy, and sometimes it's just easier to shut it out. So, but this has started what is going to be a snowball that picks up momentum and eventually, turns into something really, really significant. But it's not going to happen tomorrow, and it's not going to happen the next day. You've got to be patient. You've got to let people have the time to process what they heard today, to see it, and for people to start formulating opinions and thoughts. And honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably going to happen a lot faster than typically it would, but of course not as fast as everybody wants it to happen. And make no mistake, the world is watching. The world is watching. They're watching to see what happens, what is done. There are countries who are literally sort of taking mental notes of sort of the things that they need to watch out for in terms of notifying people going forward into their elections. I mean, certainly Canada has an election coming up in the fall. And, there's going to be, I think, an added push for people to start educating the public about what looks like interference and what you might want to suspect as interference. So that's going to be interesting. But, as again, there aren't very many who weren't watching today, weren't sort of aware that it was coming, and at least had some idea of what kind of things would be coming up in the report. So even though today seems a little bit kind of anticlimactic, right? It was sort of like, we had so hoped for a couple of big explosions, but that wasn't going to happen. You've got, first of all, Mueller's personality, and secondly, you have the fact that he felt very strongly that he needed to stay within the confines of that report. And I think that it took a little while for some of the people who were asking him questions to sort of get with the rhythm of the way you were going to elicit the best response from him. So, overall, the information has now gone out in a broader and more public way. So let's all be hopeful that that creates the momentum going forward, that creates a situation where more and more members of the Pelosi party can come to her and say, listen, my constituents have had it. We need to roll. We need to roll forward on this. That's what she's waiting for. It frustrates you people. I know it does. Don't shoot the messenger. That is just energetically what I get, is she's just waiting for a certain amount of mass to be created so that going forward, that mass does not lose its momentum, but is able to sustain. You know, you don't want to go into a situation where there's only 10 or 15 more people supporting your idea than opposing it. You want the biggest chunk of numbers on your side as you can get. So take comfort from that, and know that during this August break, I can't speak to the Republicans, but I can tell you that a lot of Democrats are going to be very busy. This is not a time where they're going to be, sitting poolside or sailing on their boat. This is going to be a busy and productive time for them. And coming back towards the end of August and into September, you're going to start seeing some real momentum building, and you're going to see Trump becoming more and more erratic. So again, I keep saying the same thing about Trump. He's going to get more erratic. Well, I can't say something else because energetically, that's all I'm getting from him. Just quickly this morning, as I was watching the hearings, at one point I was like, geez, I wonder how Trump is like handling this. And literally I got a picture of like a wild animal, a caged wild animal, just pacing and roaring and shouting and pacing. So that's telling you this got right under his skin, and he can come out in the public and say, it's nothing, or it's a witch hunt. It's not. It bugged him. It's making him a little crazy. And when that happens, we all understand what happens next. He becomes erratic, he becomes combative, and he's going to throw something into the air to try to create a narrative that he wants the narrative to be, not what's going on out there right now. So that's my quick little summary after today's hearings. I'm hoping that you find it helpful. I know that the vast majority of you out there watched it or watched a significant portion of it. And we'll be honing up over tonight and the next day or so, kind of seeing as much of it as you can. So until next time, take care, be well, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.